Remember that old fairy tale about a character whose skin is as white as snow? Yeah, of course. We all grew up with the Disney movie, mate. Well, what if I told you that Disney has remade that movie and changed the character's only defining feature and just about everything else in the story as well? I mean, I'd say why not just make an entirely new movie at that point? Why? That's a good word, because you're going to be saying that a lot during this movie, trust me. Jesus Christ. So Disney has taken a steaming piss on another legacy franchise then? Oh, you better believe it, mate. Anyways, I know a bunch of other YouTubers have already torn this movie to shreds, but I don't think anyone's really captured just how truly awful this movie really is. So buckle up, folks, we're gonna bloody do it. All right, hit me. So this movie starts with some CGI animals crawling over an old book, and we immediately know that we're in trouble, just like when we saw that CGI gopher at the start of Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. Anyways, we start to get narration from what sounds like Olaf from Frozen, and then we get a big snowflake that appears on screen. Wait, so is this a Frozen movie or is this Snow White? Well, this film certainly isn't bloody Snow White, I'll tell you that much, mate, because we immediately get her new origin story where she's born into a royal carriage in the middle of a snowstorm. And then Olaf explains that she was given her name because of the weather that she was born in. Okay, well that's a strange thing to do. I wouldn't have named my daughter after the weather report on the day she was born. What was the weather like when she was born? I think it was cloudy with a slight chance of rain. That's probably still a better name than Snow White, if I'm honest with you. Anyways, this scene feels like it was added by a bunch of corporate executives who knew that this change would be controversial. So they tried to wash away any complaints right off the bat. Did it work? Anyways, if her name wasn't a dead giveaway that her parents are massive hipsters, we then get the king and queen lecturing her that the bounty of the land belongs to all those who tend it. You know, because they did like one class on Karl Marx in philosophy. Isn't that the guy that inspired a concept that led to the deaths of millions from starvation and tyranny? Yeah, it sure is, mate. And just like your average hipster or Hollywood celebrity, they're lecturing the audience about this while quite literally living in a giant castle where they can look down on all the people who farm their food for their giant banquets and are forced to live in tiny shacks where they can't even afford to pay rent. Ah, so the king and queen are a couple of rich, hypocritical Exactly, mate. Anyways, then the king and queen start lecturing her again about how she'll need to rule with love when she grows up. Okay, forcefully ruling people with love? That sounds like a bit of an oxymoron. How do they explain that? Well, they do that by singing to a bunch of CGI birds from their balcony of their giant castle, where the poor people below, who are actually forced to do an honest day's work for a living, are forced to listen to them all day long. What a bunch of Anyways, for some reason the way this movie is shot, it kind of makes everything look fake. Even the real actors look like AI clones of themselves. Okay, well why not just make this an animated film if you're just gonna animate everything anyway? Not really sure you can call this a live action remake. Exactly, mate. Anyways, dime store Olaf starts narrating to us about Snow White growing up, and he tells us about how her mother actually died off screen because they couldn't be bothered writing or filming that scene. Okay, well that seems a bit lazy. Yeah, it sure is, mate. Anyways, before the king has any time to grieve, Gal Gadot swaggers into the castle to seduce the king and take the previous queen's place beside him on the throne. Wait, how much time has passed since the mother died? It's super unclear, and because of the way this film is edited, it feels like it could even be later that day. That is way too soon, but I guess it is Wonder Woman, right? So you wouldn't say no, would you? Exactly, mate. Anyways, then the king bangs Gal Gadot over his dead wife's grave, doesn't he? Jesus Christ! Wait, that doesn't happen, does it? Well, no, but it's heavily implied because there's a Snow White stain on the back of Gal Gadot's dress the next day. Gross. Anyways, apparently Gal Gadot's beauty is so powerful and potent that she has like magic powers or something. Okay, that's weird. What can she do with these powers? Well, she kind of picks up a small rose and makes it glow a little bit. Seems like a pretty power. Oh yeah, mate, big time. Like a 60-watt globe from Woolies could run circles around this so-called magic. Anyways, apparently she's evil because dime store Olaf tells us she is, and get this right, she has a magic mirror that talks to her with a floating V for Vendetta mask inside of it. The hell? Do they ever explain how she got this mirror or how its magic works? Oh God, no. And what's even weirder is it doesn't even like show her reflection, so it fails the one basic requirement of a mirror, right? Yeah, you're right. That's needlessly confusing. Anyways, apparently the king is under the evil queen's spell now, because apparently she sucks dick better than Riley Reid, so she convinces him about a looming threat to the kingdom in a faraway land. What kind of threat? Oh, they can't be bothered explaining that, mate. So the king gets on his horse and rides off to fight a totally made-up threat and protect his kingdom. Isn't he a king though? Why didn't he just send his army or one of his generals? Because he's a bloody pelican, mate. Anyways, he doesn't come back, does he? Oh, So she had him killed. Well, here's the thing. That's obviously what happened, and the movie goes out of its way to show us that that's clearly what happened, but then it tries to use whether or not the king is actually alive later on in the film as like a big mystery that we already know the answer to. Okay, I feel like someone should have given this a note during the scripting stage. Nah, mate, because it's clear that this movie was made to cash in on a legacy IP, even though at this point it's clear that neither the cast or crew even like the original movie.
Love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird.
I am so confused why this film even exists right now. Why not just make a new film with a new character? Nah, mate, because Disney know that people are basically hate watching these live action remakes at this point, so they still make millions of dollars either way. For f***'s sake. Anyways, now Gal Gadot, she's gone like full season 8 Daenerys Targaryen, and she starts turning the whole kingdom evil, doesn't she? Oh no, how does she do that? Well, she makes the guards wear black outfits now, instead of white ones. Okay, why does that feel a bit racist? Because it is. And get this, now Snow White can't be queen anymore. And the queen says that she has to dress in like slightly less elegant clothes and sweep a few floors. So she's teaching Snow White the value of a hard day's work, or what's the goal here? No idea, maybe the floors in the castle are just like really dirty or something. It's never explained. Fantastic. I'm glad I have a beer right now. This movie is awful. Anyways, apparently so much time has passed now that the people of the town have forgotten that there even was a queen called Snow White after all. How does the evil queen accomplish something like full-scale amnesia? Did she lace the drinking water with Tylenol or something? Nah, it's because the script said that they forgot. Oh, okay, that makes sense. No, it doesn't. Anyways, then Olaf the narrator tells us that Snow White nearly forgot herself. She nearly forgot herself? Well, what does that mean? It's unclear. It either means that she forgot that she was a queen because it's been so long, or that she's actually forgotten that she exists on this plane of reality. You know, just like your mate Jeremy did when he took way too many magic mushrooms. Yeah, that was wild. We had to tell his parents the next week to pretend that he didn't exist just so he wouldn't freak out. Anyways, they never explain what they mean by that, so next up we get some white bloke stealing potatoes from the castle. Is he Irish or something? How do you even get in there? No idea, but Snow White starts lecturing him about stealing, even though it's clear that this dude is like super povo, and she's never had to work for an honest meal in her entire life. Surely if you were gonna go to all the trouble of breaking into a castle, you'd steal more than a few potatoes, right? Yeah, true. I think he steals like a diamond encrusted dildo from her dresser drawer on the way out just to make up for it. Gross. That doesn't happen, does it? Nah, but it's heavily implied. Anyways, the white bloke tells Snow White that she's a big piece of shit for not helping anyone in the town because she clearly comes from privilege, even though she likes to lecture everyone and their dog about their privilege. Yeah, that is annoying when people do that. So Snow White decides that she's going to try and help, doesn't she? And she tries to convince the queen to share the seemingly pointless amount of potatoes they have stashed away in their basement with the povo down in the town below. Why would she think she would share though? I thought she was supposed to be an evil queen. Yeah, but apparently Snow White doesn't know she's an evil queen, even though she dresses like an evil queen, and the narrator introduced her as an evil queen, and she clearly had her parents killed because they were just about to reveal her name in the Epstein files. I was waiting for you to drop an Epstein reference somewhere. Anyways, Gal Gadot's acting in this movie is rough as guts, and it made me wonder how she even managed to convince anyone that she could act in the first place, because she's tall, hot, and speaks in a sexy accent. Oh yeah, that's right. Anyways, the guard catches that white guy from earlier on, and you can hear the diamond-encrusted dildo vibrating in his pocket. So it's clear he's been busted red-handed. Gross. Anyways, apparently he's part of some tribe of bandits who live out in the woods who are stealing from the queen because they say that they're loyal to the one true king. Oh, you mean the king she clearly had killed. Yeah, but like I said, they're keeping that a mystery, even though we already know what happened. Anyway, Snow White tries to convince Gal Gadot to let him go, and she just tells her to fuck right off. And then she has the guy chained to the gates to like freeze to death. Jesus, I thought this was a kid's film. Yeah, I thought so too. Anyways, next up we get the cliche Disney scene where the princess is telling us exactly what she wants through a song. But this song, it's not really catchy at all, and it's really confusing because she says she's waiting on a wish that will make her like her father's daughter. So then she proceeds to let the white guy go in broad daylight in front of the guards and gives him a loaf of bread to give to the other townspeople. Like that's gonna feed everyone. And he's like, off, I wanted potatoes. This guy really loves his potatoes, doesn't he? Yeah, I know. Anyways, Gal Gadot heard her singing her plans to release him out loud because she did it right in front of her balcony where she was clearly standing, and now Gal Gadot is pissed. Interesting. What's she gonna do to punish her? Well, Gal Gadot runs to whinge to the giant mirror in her room with the V for Vendetta mask in it, and the mask tells her that Snow White is like way hotter than her, and that her vagina's getting a little bit smelly with old age. Gross. Yeah, I mean, and this scene is a bit of a stretch, right? Because the evil queen is played by Gal Gadot, Gadot, right? Yeah, that's true. She's on the cover of like every beauty magazine, right? So Gal Gadot orders like the only guard we ever seem to see to kill Snow White. And he seems like really conflicted about it. Why though? He's clearly already done terrible things in the past to overthrow the kingdom and rise through her ranks, right? Yeah, exactly, mate. But for some reason they try and give like this Z-tier character a story arc, and then Gal Gadot tells him to cut out her heart and put it in a box as proof. Jesus Christ, how the fuck is this a kid's film? No idea, she's acting more like Jigsaw from the Saw franchise than a villain in a Disney movie. Anyways, next up we get Snow White, finally dressed in her iconic outfit. And the only guard we ever seem to see, who's clearly not going to kill her, he's taken her out into the middle of nowhere to kill her. But he doesn't kill her, right? Of course not. He has a change of conscience last minute because she offers him a single apple. So we're supposed to believe that this guy's going to throw away the years of murdering and executing people he's done on behalf of the evil queen just to rise up through her ranks because Snow White gives him an apple? Anyways, he tells her to piss off and run into the woods. This guy's character motivations sure are shaky, aren't they? That's right, mate. Shakier than Michael J. Fox's right leg. Come on, dude, that's not cool. Anyways, he starts yelling at her, telling her to run before he changes his mind. And the guy looks like he hasn't taken a shit for days or something because his veins are about to burst out the side of his head. Gross. So now Snow White legs it, doesn't she? And she runs straight into an evil CGI forest where the branches start ripping off her clothes like they're Bill Cosby or something. Holy shit. That took a turn. Yeah, it sure isn't, mate. Anyway, she escapes the Cosby trees, and in the middle of the forest, she runs into Bambi, doesn't she? Bambi, what the hell are they doing there? So this movie's just not Snow White at all, is it? Nah, it's not at all, mate. Anyways, Bambi tells her that Joe Rogan and his best mate Elon Musk shot her mum with a crossbow while they were out hunting and drinking. That's pretty dark. Yeah, it's a bit out of pocket, that's for sure. Anyways, the CGI animals decide to embrace her for some reason, and Bambi takes her all the way to a small house located in the middle of the forest. Okay, well, why does that happen? Yeah, not really sure. You can even see Bambi looking at the script, scratching its head going, seriously, where's my motivation for this scene? Really? No, but it's heavily implied. Anyways, Bambi's rabbit mates break into the house for her, and Snow White decides, it. I'll just make this place my house from now on, won't I? Ah, like squatters' rights. Yeah, exactly, mate. And then she decides to take a nap in one of the homeowners' beds. Isn't this a scene from Goldilocks, not Snow White? Yeah, mate, this movie has no idea what her character even is because they've literally changed everything about her. Not a great plan. Anyways, then to try and win our allegiances back because this movie's been a bit of a slog so far, the studio executives decide to put in that classic song from the original movie, Hi Ho. And this is our first interaction with the 7 dwarves. Finally, what are we like 35 minutes in and we're only just seeing the dwarves from Snow White and the 7 dwarves? Nah, mate, this film's just called Snow White, isn't it? Because Disney was too worried about associating their film with a negative portrayal of dwarves in 2025. Okay, I mean, why even make the movie at all then? I know, right? And what's even worse is the original plan was to just have Snow White stumble into a house filled with 7 random people who vaguely resemble the dwarves from the original film, but they weren't dwarves? Nah, mate, because the fans got so pissed off, so they decided to change the random people back into dwarves that look way worse than that original ugly Sonic design. Jesus Christ, why not just cast some actual little people? That is the correct term, isn't it? Well, that was the next controversy, wasn't it? All the dwarf actors who were dying for a chance to act in a movie complained that the studio took one of their only chances to act in a feature film away from them. What an absolute show. You're telling me, mate, Disney tried desperately not to offend anyone and in the process pissed everyone off and pleased no one. That's a line that should have been on the poster of the movie. Yeah, you're right, it should. Anyways, for some reason the dwarves are mining that blue glowing rock, Zonite, from the Tears of the Kingdom game, and while they work, they're bullying the small one called Dopey. Aw, poor Dopey. I don't feel too sorry for him, mate, because Dopey's CGI face is so weird that it's replaced Bella's baby from Twilight as my sleep paralysis demon. Anyways, the dwarves come home and they find someone sleeping in one of their beds, so they freak the fuck out. I mean, that's fair enough. What kind of psychopath breaks into someone's house and sleeps in their bed? Snow White, the hero of the story, that's who. Jesus Christ. Anyways, she wakes up and she starts herself, doesn't she? Because Disney have told her that she can't speak publicly about the movie anymore, because every time she does, she totally f***s it up and costs them millions of dollars. Yeah, it was a bit of an odd choice to say while promoting the movie that she hates the original movie that it's based on. I know, right? And then she gets even more scared when she sees the CGI abominations that all the dwarves have become. And she says that they're even more terrifying than Henry Cavill's CGI lip replacement in the Justice League movie. Almost forgot about that. What a disaster. Anyway, she tells them her name, Snow White, so they decide to let her stay, even though she's clearly broken into their house and violated their privacy. Seems like a terrible idea to me. Yeah, well, Grumpy's a bit based, and he tells her to f right off, because she's lived in a castle her whole life and eaten like a queen while everyone outside is starving to death. He's got a point. I'd be grumpy too. Right, so then Gal Gadot asks the mirror who the fairest of all is, which is a line from the original story that now has no meaning at all now that they've race swapped all the characters. Yeah, that's true. What's she on about? No idea, mate. I mean, it's pretty cooked that pale skin used to be a marker of beauty back in the day, but why even make the film to begin with if it had so many problems, right? Anyways, V for Vendetta tells the evil queen that Snow White is still alive and that she really needs to wash her vagina because it's stinking up the joint. Gross. So, the evil queen checks the box, and instead of a heart, she finds a bloody apple, doesn't she? Why didn't she check it earlier? No clue. So then she orders the only guard we've ever seen to come in, and she has some new guards arrest him and throw him into the dungeons. Why did he even bother coming back to work? He must have known she'd find out it was a bloody apple, because they had no idea what to do with his character. Anyways, then we get Gal Gadot singing in what must be the worst song I've ever heard in my entire life, and then we cut to the dwarves who are having a fight about whether or not Snow White can stay with them or not. But they just told her that she could stay. Yeah, I know. Anyways, Dopey's being bullied by all the other dwarves again because his CGI model is way worse than the rest of them, so Snow White tells him that it's actually legal to buy a gun in America and shoot up all your enemies at a public school. Holy sh**. No, that's not legal, mate. Not even in America. Well, no, not the second part, but pretty much any psycho can buy a gun. Anyway, she teaches Dopey how to whistle, which for some reason makes all the other dwarves start to respect him. And then we get a full-on song and dance number about whistling, which really feels like they're just trying to pad the runtime. Yeah, that does seem unnecessary. And the dwarfs, they're bloody loving life with Snow White, aren't they? And she tells them that when she was a little girl, every day was like this. Wait, so they used to sing perfectly choreographed musicals every day? Yeah, apparently. That sounds really stressful. Yeah, I reckon it would be, remembering all those dance moves. Anyways, she leaves and she says she's going to try and find Robin Hood and his merry men of bandits who are loyal to the one and only king. And she's going to try and help him. So then the dwarves decide to help her on her quest to restore the kingdom. No, mate, they just piss off to work whistling in perfect unison and leave every lantern burning in their house while they're gone. That's a terrible idea. Anyways, she walks back through the Bill Cosby forest like nothing ever happened, and she bumps right into the white bloke from earlier that she let go. That seems highly unlikely to me. I know, right? Anyways, she tells him that she's the true queen, Snow White, and that she believes her dad is still alive, even though he clearly isn't. So he introduces her to his merry men, and he says that for legal reasons, his name isn't actually Robin Hood, it's actually Jonathan. Okay, I have no idea what's going on anymore. You and me both, mate, because the Queen's guards have somehow managed to find them all the way in the middle of the forest, so she decides to leave Robin Hood and his merry men now. But she just got there. I know, right? But then she sees that Robin Hood is in trouble, so she goes back to help him, doesn't she? But she just left. I know, right? So how the hell is she gonna help against a squad of armed guards? Well, get this, mate. She gets a bunch of CGI birds to fill up a dress and pretend they're her and hide behind a tree to distract them. What? So she's like naked now? Nah, mate, apparently she's pulled another dress out of her asshole or something because she's wearing the exact same outfit like a scene later. I am so confused. Anyways, apparently her weird stunt with the dress has inspired the merry men to fight for the one true king now, even though I'm pretty sure that that was their motivation to begin with. And old mate Jonathan cops an arrow in the chest trying to save her. Holy sh**. And rather than take him straight to the emergency room, she decides to take him to the dwarves because one of them is called Doc. Isn't that just a name though? Yeah, it is. And it's at this point we're introduced to the only dwarf in this actual movie who's not one of the dwarves, he's one of the merry men, and he's looking at the CGI dwarfs and he's pissed off at them because he's thinking about all of his friends that were denied roles in this film because of these CGI abominations. For sake, did anyone actually read this script before making the movie? Anyways, then we get a scene where everyone's looking sad about this random guy they've literally just met, and they try to do that old school fake out where Doc comes out of the house with a sad look on his face, so you assume he's dead, but it's a Disney film, so we all know that he's totally not. Who even is this guy? He's not even in the original story. Nah, mate, he's not at all. Anyway, so now the dwarves and the merry men they're gonna team up Avengers style. And Snow White, she's decided that she loves Robin Hood now, apparently. Why? Not really sure, to be honest. And he seems oblivious to this, despite the fact that she's literally singing about loving him right in front of his face. And then we get a big musical number, and now apparently he's decided that he loves her too. What the hell? This movie's just become way more offensive to little people, right? She's known the dwarves for like 2 days now, and she didn't even look at any of them twice. Yeah, true. What a Anyways, the guards have found them again, haven't they? Because apparently Snow White gave the evil queen her password to find my iPhone, so Robin Hood decides that he's going to run off into the forest and try and distract them so that she can escape. He literally just took an arrow in the chest for her. I think he's done quite enough, right? Anyways, he gets captured because he's a bloody pelican, because he's sneaking around to try and get the jump on the guards while he's talking in a regular indoor speaking voice to himself about how he used to be a bad guy and a smuggler, but now he's a good guy for some reason because he's met Snow White. None of it makes any sense. What an idiot. I know. So the evil queen captures him again, and she throws him into the same cell with the guard who betrayed her at the start of the film. Well, why doesn't she kill them? Because it's a Disney film. So she's going to place them in an easily escapable situation and then close the door and assume it all went to plan. Was that an Austin Powers quote? You bloody know it, mate. Anyways, this is it. The evil queen comes up with her big plan. She takes some potion and turns herself into an old witch to try and trick Snow White into eating an apple, for no other reason than that's what happened in the original book. Why would she just eat a random apple off some old lady? And isn't the evil queen's only motivation at this point not to age and to stay young and beautiful forever? Why the hell would she willingly turn herself into a decrepit old woman? Don't worry, mate. None of that is explained. Anyways, the dwarves go back to work and they leave Snow White alone in the house because last time they almost burnt the bloody place down by leaving all those bloody lanterns burning. Idiots! Anyways, the evil queen rocks up and she offers her a bloody apple, which honestly should have set as many alarm bells off in her head as a full-grown man handing out candy from a white panel van outside of a school. So she doesn't eat it, right? She's not an idiot. Nah, she just totally eats it, mate. And then the evil queen, she's like roofied it or something because Snow White totally passes out. And the dwarves, they come running, don't they? Because Bambi and the CGI animals ran all the way to the mines to warn them about the evil old witch. Why didn't the animals just try and stop the old lady then? Surely that would have taken less time and effort than running all the way to the dwarves in the mines. I know, right? Anyways, they're all gutted, aren't they? Even though they've only known this woman for like maybe a day at best at this point. So what happens next? Well, get this. Robin Hood and the guard, whose name we never learn and who has no real purpose in this movie, well, they bloody break out, don't they? How? Well, apparently the chains the queen locked them in were ordered from Alibaba.com or something, because they just managed to pull them straight out of the wall, don't they? Seems a bit convenient, but go on. Well, V for Vendetta tells Gal Gadot that she is now the fairest of all. So she goes out on a balcony and forces everyone in the town below to chant repeatedly that she is now the fairest of all. And all the poor people in this village must be thinking that this chick has totally lost it at this point. Because honestly, who does that? That's a really weird thing to do, right? So that's it. Snow White's dead? It's the end of the movie? Nah, she's not dead. Anyways, John, or Robin Hood, or whatever the you want to call him, he finds Snow White laying unconscious on the forest floor. So how does he wake her up then? Well, he pulls a full-on Bill Cosby and just starts making out with her unconscious body, doesn't he? Jesus Christ! I know, but it only bloody works. Snow White wakes up. What? And all the dwarves, they're stoked, aren't they? Even Grumpy, who thinks that Snow White is just a stuck-up bitch who's never worked an honest day in her entire life. So let me get this straight. The evil queen's plan was to turn into an old woman, which is exactly the opposite of what she's been trying to do, then hobble all the way through a cursed forest and give her a roofied apple that has a built-in cheat code where if someone happens to randomly make out with her unconscious body, then she'll just wake up. Yep, that's her plan. That is it sure is, mate. And then we get some more bull, because apparently while she was asleep, she somehow managed to figure out that the evil queen actually had her father murdered. So the entire plot point where her and the merry men have been wondering whether or not he's still alive or not has been rendered utterly pointless. This movie is a steaming pile of dog. Anyways, she starts giving this big TED talk saying that because her father is dead, it's now her responsibility to save the kingdom. And Dopey, he's so inspired by this TED talk that he starts bloody talking. The CGI on Dopey, it's freaking me out, man. Me too. Anyways, this is the big scene, right? Snow White has come up with a plan to finally overthrow the evil queen once and for all. Interesting. How's she going to undo years of tyranny and a corrupt legal system in a single afternoon? Well, she's going to rock up to the town dressed as Red Riding Hood and start singing and try and convince a bunch of other people to start singing as well. That plan makes no sense at all. I know, mate, and Snow White finds this out like straight away because she's immediately captured. Because the evil queen saw her singing from all the way up on her balcony and had more than enough time to rally all her guards and arrest them before they were done with the song. Idiots. Yeah, and this is where you can really tell that both actresses were getting into fights behind the scenes about the whole Israel-Gaza situation, because they're staring daggers at each other now, aren't they? Oh, so this is the final showdown. Do we at least get a cool action sequence? Oh, not at all, mate, because both the evil queen and Snow White decide to take it in turns to give the townspeople another TED talk and try and win over their allegiances. That's incredibly anticlimactic, right? Anyways, Gal Gadot goes to stab her because she was trained in the IDF, but right before she can, the only real dwarf in the whole movie shoots the bloody knife out of her hand with a crossbow. Where the hell did he come from? No clue. Anyways, that Jonathan guy, he's there now too, apparently. Anyways, the evil queen, she legs it all the way back to the magic mirror with the V for Vendetta mask in it, and he tells her that Snow White will always be the fairest of all because her name is on the poster and the bloody Blu-rays. So then, the evil mirror turns the evil queen into dust and then just sucks her up like a Dyson vacuum. What the f? Mate, I watched this scene multiple times and I still have no f***ing clue what they were going for here. So anyways, Snow White and Robin Hood are all dressed in white now. And apparently they've forced the entire town to perform an epic closing musical number, which is the same song that her hipster parents sang to her at the start of the movie. So in the end, the townspeople just swapped out like an evil tyrant for a pair of slightly less evil singing tyrants? Yeah, pretty much. And then we get the final reveal of the movie that apparently it wasn't Olaf narrating the film at all. It was bloody dopey. I hate this movie. Yeah, me too, mate. Leave a comment and piss off. Video's over.